you everyone for joining. I'm very excited about this event. It just allows us very much to start to think about encouraging women into IT. As Simon said, there's a lot of people who think IT is perhaps for men, but it is something that I hope that in the future people will recognise as being for both women and men, and it's a really important area of work where we realise that there's so much goes on internationally for IT, and there is so much scope for people to train into IT from a different career. And this is what I hope for tonight, to encourage you to, if you're not in IT already, to join into IT. If you're already in IT, maybe get more qualifications in IT. So I think in that sense, hopefully it will give you a lot of encouragement, and hopefully look forward to the future to find out more. So without further ado, I would like to introduce, and I'm very pleased that Andrea Palmer is able to join us from BCS Women, and she's going to be talking to you about what BCS Women do. So I'm going to take my camera off and introduce Andrea, who's going to put her camera on. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you.
Thanks, Janice, and thank you very much for the kind invitation to come and talk today. So I'm Andrea Palmer. I'm the chair of BCS Women, and in my day job, I'm a consultant for Emphasis Consulting. I have worked in a number of different roles, but what I want to emphasize, based on what Janice has been saying, is that actually you don't have to have studied IT at university to have a career in tech. I studied a STEM subject, so I studied biochemistry as my first degree and psychology as my second degree, but it hasn't stopped me having a long career and varied career in IT, and it's taken me, not just in the UK, but I've lived and worked in Norway and in India as well. So, I will encourage people to think about the different options and moving into tech as an exciting thing. So I've been asked today to talk a little bit about what BCS Women is and what it means. So I'm just going to share my screen and put that presentation mode. Right. Janice, can you just confirm that you can see that okay?
I can see. Thank you so much.
It's okay. Thank you. So we are one of the specialist groups, as opposed to one of the regional groups, who specialise in to raise the profile and encourage more females to enter and work in tech. It's one of the membership groups, and it relies on collaboration and agreement of its members to make decisions. But we're a self-organising team, and we're a group of volunteers. And whilst some of the subjects we may tackle are quite serious, some people may say, but we also like to have a bit of fun. And we were founded by Professor Sue Black over 20 years ago now. So we've been around as one of the specialist groups in the BCS for a long time. So what is our sort of purpose and mission? And our purpose and mission is really to attract, retain and empower women in tech. And we're working alongside the BCS and their strategy as well. So we try to run events that support careers, but sort of sharing our expertise and improving education along the way. It doesn't mean that we don't influence practices or help drive standards. Those things do happen, but considering the size of our group, we thought it was important just to focus on three things. So just to give you an idea of some of the things that we've achieved in the sort of last financial year within the BCS. So we've run, joined and supported or spoken at numerous online events, and even started to do some in person over the times. one of our biggest and most active ones is the Hampshire branch, which you can see has run 15 different ones, which included digital inclusion, and then sort of growing software engineering in-house. We've also, as part of our sort of trying to empower and encourage people into tech, we've started doing monthly sessions on taster sessions, which looks at the different careers that people can do in tech. And that includes testing, business analysis, cybersecurity, just to name a few. And I will talk about another one that's coming up in the new year in a moment. We have a specialist group, a subset of our group in Scotland, and they've organised several other events looking at ethics and data, and they're a big sponsor of the Ada Scotland Festival and participate in that a lot. But we try not to just do things on our own, and we try to encourage other groups to work with us. And so we're working with the open source group, but we also work with the policy, the council, FTAG, and the software and testing group. So this is just to give you some examples of where we cross. And as volunteers, we don't want to keep reinventing the wheel. We actually want to work in partnership with lots of people. One of our big events is actually what's called the BCS Women Lovelace, and this is where students come together. And obviously during the pandemic, we've actually had to take that online, but they put forward proposals and about what they've been studying, and all come together to produce some fantastic and some amazing things that they actually do and study when people, and they get speakers and all sorts of things. So this just gives you the posters that they presented and all the different universities that came together and put things in. But you can see that Rebecca George spoke, Nicola Martin, and also people from within industry as well have also spoken. And this year we're actually holding it in Sheffield, and this will be the first time that people have got together face to face again. So exciting for all these students to come together. And as BCS Women, not only do we help run that event, but we provide speakers and also help with some of the travel expenses so that people can actually get there as well. We also look to partnership with lots of different people. So we work with Tech Up, which does a lot of that's started initially by Sue Black, and they sort of helping out underprivileged people or minority groups to actually get into tech, whether it be through software development and data boot camps, which are generally run for over 3 months. We work closely with We Are Tech Women, and then for the last 2 years we've worked really closely with Coding Black Females, providing them as mentors. And then the other group that we've been working closely with is WISE, which is doing, people aren't aware of what WISE stands for. That's Women in Science and Engineering. And so I mentioned about upcoming events and books that we wanted to do. So next week, 5 members of the BCS Women Committee are speaking or running a workshop at the Women Silicon Roundabout. There's a link here, and it's a 2-day event, and it's like the largest Women in Tech event in the UK. It's been held at the Excel Centre in London, and I believe if you register in the next sort of 48 hours is before closing. So if you're interested in going along and hearing a lot of inspirational speakers, then I would really encourage you to do that. We have a couple of other events coming up. So How Computing Has Helped Lead the Way to the Red Planet, which is on the 28th of November. And our next taster session is talking about how you can get into project management, which is in February. And then I wanted to highlight some of the books that people on the committee have actually written. So there are 3 books that are available through the BCS publishing, and then one other, which is the Netting in Cyberland, which Wendy has written, which is all about teaching your children about the importance of cybersecurity. But should you want to find out anything more, there's a link here, and we would welcome you to do more joint events with you, or for you to actually join the committee. We're open and inclusive, so that's me. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you so much, Andrea. That was amazing. So much information there.
And
so much
I will
exciting things going on.
So I will share the slides with Janice, but they obviously will be on the recording as well. So.
And yeah, certainly give me your email address if you want me to share those slides with you. Is that okay, Andrea, if we do that?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you so much. Right. So I'm going to pass over, and I know, and just before I do that though, Andrea, do you want, should we invite people to see if they've got any questions for you before you go? Sorry.
Yes. That's all right.
Yeah,
but if not, then
of course.
I know. I'm sorry I can't hang around today, but
no, that's
if anyone has questions, do give them to Janice, and we can get back to you at a later stage.
Absolutely. I just think you've got so many exciting things going on coming up. It's just amazing. I want to join some of them actually myself.
Well, please do. You'd be more than welcome.
Yeah, sounds great. Lovely. All right. I'm thinking maybe there isn't any questions, Jeff. Can you see any questions from anyone at the moment? I think there isn't any.
Okay.
Okay. No. All right. Well, thank you so much, Andrea, and thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for putting this event on your website. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye. So now I'd like to introduce Jeremy Gibbons from University of Oxford. Now he's going to be talking about postgraduate professional qualifications, which is actually really important. I think my degree is certainly not in computer science. So if you are in the same position as myself, where you think, actually, I've got loads of experience, but I don't have a qualification in computer science, I think Jeremy's talk will be extremely exciting. So I'm going to hand over to Jeremy. Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Great, thank you, Janice. Let me share my screen. Please yell if you can't see that. So I'm going to apologise first for not being Alessandra Cavara as advertised. She is indisposed and I'm standing in. And despite Janice's introduction, I'm not really going to talk about all matters of postgraduate qualifications. I'm going to talk about just one, which is the one I'm most familiar with, which is the programme we have at the University of Oxford. And I can't even claim that this is representative, because it's I think it's quite a unique programme, but it's open to people in the software industry, and especially to women in the software industry, broadly interpreted, so you don't have to be a programmer. And I'll be delighted to see applications from people in BCS Women, members of BCS Women, and to discuss if you have any issues as well. I've got my email address on the bottom of the slide there. I will share these slides with Janice, so you can keep the email address if you want. Very happy to answer any questions. So the program it's a part-time master's program, so it's aimed at students who are in full-time employment. It's a professionally oriented rather than a research oriented degree. So to a first approximation, our students are all in employment in the software industry in a variety of roles. And the purpose of the program is to connect theory and practice. So connect the theory that we do in the computer science department at the University of Oxford with the practice that you do in the industry, in software industry. So this program's been around for a while, since '93. It's still growing. It's doing well. The URL for the website is there, but if you Google SoftEng Oxford, you'll probably find it as well. I do, but I think Google knows me and what I Google for. So the ethos of the program is that it's really about taking context into account. So when you build any sufficiently significant software piece of software, it is itself only part of a larger system, and that's a kind of socio-technical system rather than a purely technical one. In the same way, any participant of any community, any participant in any system, any stakeholder of the software you're building is themselves part of a larger community. And you have to take this larger context into account. And what this means is that when you're developing a software system, you have technical concerns, of course. It's a technical question, but it's not only a technical question. The social ones are relevant too, and in fact, they may dominate the technical issues. And our whole program is based on the premise that you have to take this wider context into account. So it's as it happens in Oxford, you can study computer science full-time and you can study software engineering with us part-time, but you can't do computer science part-time and you can't do software engineering full-time. And I see that not as a weakness or holes in our program. That's a deliberate design decision, that software engineering is really about computer science in context. And within the university, we can't provide that context. We're very much dependent on the student body coming to us with that context. And so then we complement each other. We provide the theory, we provide the facts, we provide the academic content, but the students provide the professional and industrial context, and it's where those two meet that the program is about. So in that sense, it's quite similar to professional development in other professions, like in law and in medicine. You can do an undergraduate degree in law or an undergraduate degree in medicine, but that doesn't qualify you to be a safe solicitor or barrister or surgeon. There's more professional training needed beyond the undergraduate degree, and that's very much the same in software engineering. Knowing computer science makes you know enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be a competent professional. And part of the software engineering program is adding the extra bit of complementing it, your own professional experience, but continuing the study that you might have done as an undergraduate, but might not. I'll come back to that. So the students, as I say, they're in full-time employment, typically, in a wide variety of roles in the software industry. So they might be developers, but they might be designers, system designers, software designers, interaction designers. They might be consultants, they might be managers and not actually do the work themselves, but have people to do it for them. They might be high-level architects, they might be testers, they might be DevOps people. They might be setting policy. They might be customers for software systems. So we've had students from the Royal Air Force who no longer write any of their own software. They buy it all in, but they want to be informed customers, and so they need to know a lot about specification and requirements and testing in order to put the software providers on the spot to be able to ask the right questions. So many of our students are very experienced, and they can come to us with decades of experience even, but not necessarily any formal qualifications. the software industry being what it is, lots of experienced, competent professionals have come into the discipline from elsewhere. As Andrea was saying earlier, you needn't have done a computer science undergraduate degree in order to end up being involved in the software industry. So students come to us to do a master's degree. There are a variety of reasons they might do that. Some just want accreditation for their experience. They want the formal qualification. Some are using the study and the formal qualification that they get as a stepping stone for advancement. Maybe they're looking for promotion, or maybe they're looking for a better job, and so they're interested in the degree for what it can provide to them in their career development. Some actually don't care about the degree at all. They mostly come to do the study with us in order just to improve their skills. They might actually care very little about the formal piece of paper that comes at the end of it, and actually just enjoy and benefit from the study. And we welcome all of these. So there are various reasons why you might want to go on and do higher, well, there's a continued professional development, if you like, lifelong learning, to continue beyond your undergraduate degree or step into a degree in software engineering. You might not have had an earlier qualification in the same subject. So we teach a modular program, and I'll say more about the individual modules, but just to say there's a lot of them. There's more than 40 subjects, and here's a whole bunch of buzzwords. They're all on the website. I'm not going to go through them all, but we cover everything from programming to policy, governance, privacy, computer forensics and malware, and so on. You can register to do a degree with us, but you can also, we accept students on a standalone basis, so they can come and take one module and just try it out and maybe never come back again. Maybe you're just happy with that. They just wanted to learn about, well, let's see, about malware or about information governance. They'll come and do a course on that, and that's all they wanted, and that's fine. The modules themselves, they're designed for part-time students who are full-time professionals. So what we don't do is have a lecture every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon at 2 o'clock. The modules are intensive 1 week class in person in Oxford. So we send out some pre-study material a month in advance. That might be some reading. There's an intensive teaching week in Oxford of lectures and practicals and discussions. We keep the classes small, so there's a maximum of 18 in a class. So that means the classes can be very interactive. You get to know each other during the week because you're together for the whole week, have coffees together, coffee breaks together, have lunches together. So there's some networking opportunities as well. That teaching week is very intensive, and so part of the learning experience is the assessment that follows, where you have a bit more time to stretch out. So we hand out a mini project specification, and the students on the course are assessed by working on that mini project and submitting something 6 weeks later. Now those modules go to make up 2 different master's degrees, one in software engineering and one in software and systems security, but drawn from the same portfolio of 40 plus modules in 40 plus subjects. So for each of those, for each master's degree, you choose 10 modules, you attend the course, you do the mini project, you submit the assignment, and you do a project and dissertation, a small project and dissertation. Over 2 to 4 years. So the university won't let you graduate in less than 2 years, and we give you a time limit of 4 years to complete this in. Although we understand that you're busy professionals, and so there's quite a lot of flexibility for suspensions and extensions and so on too. There are below the MScs, there are two smaller awards, a postgraduate certificate and a postgraduate diploma, which are 4 and 8 modules rather than 10 plus a dissertation, as exit awards. So you maybe start with us and then decide it's not for you. You start with us and your plans change. You move jobs, you move disciplines. We provide these exit awards so you can leave partway through with honour if you wish. The degrees are accredited. Both master's degrees are accredited by by BCS, and also the security degree has additional accreditation by the National Cybersecurity Centre, NCSC. So that's important for applying for certain kinds of jobs in cybersecurity. The project the students do at the end is a professional one, not a research-oriented one, because this is a professional degree, not a research-oriented one. Typically, it's applying the techniques that have been studied in the various modules to something that you're working on. Maybe you're responsible for some little widget in the middle of a big machine, and you didn't start it, you're not going to end it, you're just somebody who's working on it for a while. It is the way it is for historical reasons and social reasons, political reasons, and maybe it's not ideally designed and you just have to look after it. You might, so a very typical kind of project is to take this widget that you're responsible for and say, well, if I were to start again, I wouldn't end up here. With the benefit of hindsight, here's a retrospective redesign of the kind of thing I'm working on, illustrating the techniques in OO programming or concurrency or security or whatever it is that you want to apply. And you write a dissertation about it, and it's the dissertation we assess. And it's actually rather a small part of the degree. It's our rule of thumb is it's 1/6 of the degree. So the degree is 12 units overall, 10 modules, and a kind of double module for the project and dissertation. We take admissions every year, so we run on the academic year cycle. So we are taking applications now, with a deadline in January for start in October 2023. If you have 2 years relevant experience in a professional environment and a university level qualification in a related subject, then you are almost certainly eligible for the course. But we do allow for compensation as well. So we don't require the university level qualification. In fact, we don't require any qualification. You may have left school at 16 with 2 O levels and found your way into software development 30 years later and come back and do a master's degree and skip all the earlier A levels and university undergraduate degree. That's fine. By the time you've had 30 years of experience in a professional environment, your undergraduate education and your school life are pretty irrelevant. So we're quite happy to take that approach. And that comes as a surprise to many people, thinking that you can get into the University of Oxford without having had an undergraduate degree from anywhere. You come and do a master's degree, but in our professional program, you can do that. Conversely, although less enthusiastically, we'll take people who don't have the 2 years relevant experience, as long as they have a bang-on topic university undergraduate degree. But I'm less enthusiastic about that, because I really think we benefit from the context you bring, and you as a student need that context because we can't simulate it very well. We need some persuading about coming in straight from even a computer science undergraduate degree. We really want to see you with relevant experience. The courses are taught by, every course is taught by a subject expert in that material. About half the subjects we teach internally, and the other half we outsource to external specialists, typically people in industry working on the thing the course is about. Largely because we don't have expertise in all the areas that we teach. So sometimes partly it's a capacity thing, but partly it's an expertise thing. So we bring in external specialists for the subjects that we can't cover ourselves. I need to talk about costs, and I have to confess that it's not a cheap program. So the cost to do the master's degree is 10 module fees and 4 annual installments of a registration fee. So the fees are the same kind of order of magnitude as an MBA and other professional master's degrees. But most of our students are sponsored by and the fees are paid by their employer. So mostly this isn't students paying out of their own pockets. It's a reduced fee for UK students compared to everybody else. And we have a nice team that does this, admin, 16 academics who are dedicated to this program, whose teaching is essentially only on this program. And we have research interests in some of the things we teach, but not all of them. And I think that's all I wanted to say. I'm open to questions.
Jeremy, thank you so much. That's so informative. I can't believe that you offer it to, and literally somebody who's had 30 years experience, but, just came out of school and did that. I think that's amazing. And to get a qualification at the University of Oxford, I think that's a really good thing. So thank you so much for that. I don't know if there's any questions at all you want to ask anybody. I think there's a lot of information there we could take on. I like the fact that also we are in a position at the moment, there is so much work out there in IT, and you might accidentally end up in a career in IT, and then you can then eventually, after a few years, decide, actually, you know what, I do actually want a qualification in IT after all. Yeah, initially maybe.
That's actually quite common as well. We have, you wouldn't be an exceptional student on the program coming and doing that. We have quite a lot of people who have drifted into the software industry and are kind of backfilling with a qualification, perfectly good at what they do, but want to know a bit more about why they do what they do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just opens doors, I think, quite a bit.
Yeah. So just to confirm, Janice, we don't have anything on the Q&A, but
perfect. Thank you, Jeff. That's really helpful.
Just one question from myself, Jeremy. You mentioned that you subcontract most or some of the subjects. Can you give us a couple of examples of who lectures for you? Are you able to just give me an idea of the depth? And
we just had a course on enterprise architecture that's taught by a chief technical officer in a bank.
Right.
We have various consultants, so people who so we have a safety critical systems course taught by someone who's been a consultant on many safety critical systems projects. I'm trying to think of the day jobs of the other people who work for us. Some of them are academics at other institutions, but most of them are in industry.
And they just come in as specialists. Okay.
Yes, yeah. We pay them, of course. But we don't pay them what they're worth. They come and teach for us because we get great students, and they enjoy the experience of teaching.
That was you've just taken the other question out of my mouth. What do they get out of it? It seems like it's potentially a two-way street.
Yes, absolutely. So certainly my own experience teaching on the program, it's a huge amount of fun because it's quite different from teaching 18-year-olds, teaching knowledgeable professionals and people who know that building software systems is difficult.
Yeah. Okay.
So I really enjoy it, and so I imagine our externals do too.
Good.
I think we have a question in the chat box.
Do we? Sorry, I missed that.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, about international students. Do you want me to ask that one?
Yeah. Do you have many international students?
We do, although in the past year or two we have fewer European students than we used to do. Well, we have fewer European admissions this year because of Brexit, of course. So it's not so much that there's a barrier, it's just that the government now treats them as overseas students and they have to pay overseas fees rather than home fees. So we became less attractive. But certainly at least a quarter of the student body, probably a third, is from outside the UK, based outside the UK.
Okay, that's interesting. I know for myself, coming in with some industry context, it's the courses are very rewarding and a two-way street. But just, you did mention earlier on that you're not so keen on people with limited experience, but even people with computing degrees coming in. What sort of challenges do you get with those people, and how do you address them? If we've got somebody in the audience who's in that position, I'm just trying to maybe explain and what they would need to do in order to.
A lot of the things we're teaching are solutions to the problem of how you build a large system involving lots of people, where communication and social and political things are as important as technical things. And if you haven't experienced that for yourself, then you have to take that on trust, because we can't give you such a large system to experience it with within a university. So we assume when people come in, they are familiar with that problem, and that's the experience that we're looking for. Not that necessarily that you've had a major role in any of these things, but just that you've been part of a team, you've experienced communication difficulties and vague specifications and so on, which are an issue as soon as you've got more than one person involved. If it's just you doing a one-person development, then you don't have any communications issues with yourself. But as soon as more people are involved, you do. So what we tend to do when somebody applies in that situation, we'll have a look, we might have a chat, and we might recommend come back in a year or two when you've had a year or two's experience, rather than plain reject.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Can I just add a few things? Because I've taken 3 models from the program.
Yeah. Hi, Paula.
Hi. And I can give some insights as well. If anybody has questions, you can ask me questions. But I think my perspective is coming from, I do have some experience, but also coming from the doctorate program. I was privileged to participate in the software engineering program as well, and take three particular models that were useful for my research. And I think that's one of the really nice advantages of the program, that you get that, at least that aspect of it.
A nice pick and mix approach, like this.
It is. I mean, of course, privilege is given to the students with coming from industry, but also because I also have like some industry experience, and then I was also part of like the doctorate program. I was able to pick out models that were streamlined to exactly what I needed for my research. So if that's an angle that someone on the call is thinking about, please ask me questions, and I can give you some information about my own experience as well. And the courses are actually very amazing, to be honest. I did the interaction design course, people and security, and the requirements engineering course.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much.
And you can come and just do 1, 2, or 3, or any number, in fact, of modules as a standalone student. You don't have to register for the whole MSc, and so you don't have to pay the registration fees. You won't get an MSc, you won't get the qualification, but if all you want to do is courses on interaction design, people and security, and well, we don't teach the requirements one anymore, but if you wanted to do interaction design and people and security, like Paula did, then you can just come and take those 2 modules on a standalone basis.
Exactly.
Thank you, Paula.
It's very valuable, Paula. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's really useful to have somebody who's actually done the course.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that's great. I don't know if there's any more questions at all.
Not seeing anything flooding in, but
No.
I'm sure we'll get some later on.
I'll
Yeah.
share my slides with Janus.
Thank you.
They
That's
have the
amazing. Thank you.
email address on. So if anybody thinks of a question later, I'm going to have to go now. But if anybody thinks of a question, do feel free to email me.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jeremy. And thank you so much for joining us. And thank
Okay.
you for stepping in at such short notice as well.
That's
I
fine.
really
That's fine. No
appreciate
problem.
that.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you.
Okay. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Take care. Right. So now I'm just going to put my video on because I'm going to share with you my presentation. Here we are. There we go. Let's see. Right. So as I say, my name is Eunice Basin. I'm one of the committee members for BCS Oxfordshire. My main interest area is in relation to early careers and young people in their early careers in computer science. And what I hope to be able to do as part of working for being a volunteer for BCS is try and encourage younger people and women to join BCS to get into the computer industry. I'm just checking with Jeff. Can you see my screen? I'm just sharing, just making sure.
I'm seeing your video at the moment.
Okay, let me just share my screen again. I think. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, it looks.
Thank
yes,
you.
well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much. So, just want to talk about training really on my talk. And the reason I want to do that is because sometimes, although there is so many qualifications out there, what might be of interest, it would be just a training course which you happen to want to do to increase your skills in an area. So the types of training that you might have heard of are online training courses. And so online training courses, I think, are very beneficial in the sense that you can do it in your own time. So that's my preferred option. But I also want to talk about the resources you need for your training. So I suppose in terms of time, it's one of the biggest ones, and having a space to work in and perhaps a computer and perhaps some equipment. So I'll talk about that as well. And BCS actually provide something that Jeremy touched on, and that is personal development plan or continued professional development. And I'll talk about that as well. So the types of computer training you might have been involved with is compulsory training if you're in work, group training, so that there'll be lots of people in the room and you're happy to be one of them, and there'll be somebody at the front teaching you different skills. Or you can have one-to-one training, so somebody might have organised one-to-one training for you, or you might have organised it yourself. So I'll talk about these. So in terms of compulsory training, you may have done compulsory training, and often this is in computer-aided form, so it's on the screen, and you happen to be doing something to do with GDPR or fire safety training, and there's a minimum pass rate. So I often think that although these trainings are very important and employers need you to do them, sometimes when they're related to certainly equality or they're related to cybersecurity, they are real things that you're involved with at work that which impact what you do, and you need to be aware of them. So I think they do increase our knowledge, and sometimes they might trigger things in yourself and think, oh, actually, I'm really interested in that and I want to explore it a bit further. So one-to-one training, comparing it to group training in terms of being in a group, and many of you may have already been in a group training, but I think that in group training, it's very good when when lots of people want to ask a question that you might be thinking of, or want to ask the same question, but somebody else answers that question. And I think they do challenge you and stretch you a bit more than perhaps one-to-one training, because in the sense that you're seeing what everybody else is doing, you're thinking, well, actually, I want to do what they're doing as well as they're doing. So in that sense, it's quite good. And it's pre-prepared material that you can, for instance, I've done training in SQL in a group setting, and we were given set of exercises to get through within an hour. So I think that's quite good, and you get a certification at the end. So I think those are quite good, and you can show that to employers so they can see this, that you've obtained that skill, and perhaps you can also show them the work that you've done at work to demonstrate the fact that you've done some, say, we've written some SQL and so on. One-to-one training, I think it's very personalized, and I think it's very effective actually. In terms of asking questions, I think it's a bit easier because you're not in a group situation. You can just ask your teacher about, or your tutor about, what it is you want to know about, and you can maybe ask questions which is not within the training as well. They'll be able to help you with those, and it moves at your own pace, so you don't have to feel that you have to go at the speed that everybody else is going. You're going at the pace that you want to go. I've done a lot of online training. I find it very effective. I'm a mum of 3, so I do find that I can do the training in the time that suits me, rather than having to do it at the time that the training is taking place. Things like CompTIA, some examples of training that I've been involved with, so like tech training, and I've done some training to do with Python programming, and those are quite nice actually, because what they do is certainly programs like Udemy, LinkedIn, Pluralsight, all these forums offer places where you can register, and they don't have to cost the earth. And you can, certainly when I did my Python training, I was able to write some codes, and then I could then there's some tests that you have to do, so you have to make sure you pass the tests. But I would then maybe write the code and think, okay, so what about if I try it this way or I try it that way? So it's kind of, you can explore things a bit more, I think, in that way. Employers like to see this in a sense that you've done some training outside of your work or what have you, in the sense that they can see that you're motivated and you want to learn, and also you can multitask and manage your time. And as I say, they don't have to be very expensive. And I have to be honest, I think my Python training costs about £20, and there's all sorts of deals in Udemy if you check out that site. So as I say, programming in Python, you can do these specialist courses, CompTIA, if you want to be a technician. So if you want to do support role, IT support roles. Perhaps you're interested in servers, so there's servers. You can set up. I've actually set up a server myself on my PC, so you can do these things. And as I say, it doesn't have to cost the earth. And we talked about the fact that there's various forums like Udemy, LinkedIn, and Pluralsight, and there's many others. For those of you who are interested in, say, networking, there's Cisco courses that you can get involved with, so you can be a network engineer. So it just does open doors a bit, and as I say, you can do the courses online. There's also Microsoft certification courses. They are a little bit more expensive, and also when you do the exams, I think you get so many times when you can pass them. So I've done one of those courses. I think it was for Office Professional, and I think they're quite nice too, because you can put those on your CV if that's something that would be good in terms of your future, and that's what maybe you're trying to find a job in that area. So I'm going to show you this website, but this website, HTTPS PDP, that's professional development, bcs.org, offers you a place where you can actually go and set your goals. And I've actually tried this, and that's actually quite effective, because what you can do is you can set yourself goals and associated activities. So you can set yourself goals. Say you said, okay, I want to learn about Python. Now, okay, that's great. So I'll go and find out about Python as a goal, and then I'll find out who can provide it, and I'll set myself a goal. I'll try and do it over Christmas, and you can, if you've got time, you could do this in the evenings, or you can do it over the weekends, and it just allows you to gain the qualifications you need to during the time that you have available. So yeah, it does give you, even if you are within a workplace and working at the moment and in that area, say if you're a programmer anyway, what you can do is you can set yourself goals and maybe share that with your manager as well. So I mentioned the BCS Professional Development Plan. I'm pretty sure you have to be a BCS member to access this, but I've set up some goals here. You can see, and they're a little bit old now, but things like I want to complete a course in Python. I want to install Windows Server 2016, which I've already done. I want to read through the Network for Dummies network, to set up a small network. So I want to do that. I want to set up a small network within my house. I want to do a C++ course. So the activities there, for instance, are go and find out about C++ courses. I've done talks on IT training for Science Oxford. For I would say probably year 10s. And as BCS member, we organise talks so that we can reach out to general population and society to inform them about how we use IT within different industries and so on. So that's my talk. So I just want to see if you've got any questions. I'm going to stop sharing now. So there we go. I don't know if there's any questions there. Do ask me any questions you've got, if you have any.
Not seeing anything in Q&A.
Genius, thank you for that.
No, thank you, Paula.
I had a question, so how do you translate like these trainings into like real world experiences?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, because a lot of times when people attend meetings like this or events like this, there's like directions. Okay, you can do this. There's this training. There's that program. But how does this translate into the real world? How do I move from point A to point B? I have this plan. I'm learning on Udemy. How are you applying it in real world?
Well, just to give you an example, for instance, in my role, I do IT support. So the CompTIA course talks about how to troubleshoot Windows platforms, say Windows 10. So for instance, I had an issue today. I couldn't get a camera to work, a webcam to work. So the course allows you to find out, perhaps using things like Event Viewer as one tool, or things like device managers, another tool, and find out whereabouts the problem lies. So that's one example. In terms of servers, I don't use servers that very often, but I do use them every so often. But really, it really helped me when I started using servers in my current role to see how to use the different parts of the server and what the server looks like and what's its functionality and why it's so important, and how it enables people to access the data on there. So I could see in real form doing that. Currently, I'm not doing any programming, but certainly the Python programming I did. I used to be a programmer many years back, but it really kind of helped me to see how another programming language could be used. But yeah, so in that sense, it's very useful. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it does answer the question. I think my question was very much directed to your career progression and what you're looking.
Oh yeah, sure. That's such a good point. Yeah, career progression wise, it really, I mean, in terms of what I do at the moment, in terms of using servers, for instance, I could push my skills a bit further than they are at the moment. So day to day, we walk into work and we do all these different things. But for me to progress in terms of using service, which is what I really want to do, a training course on service allows me to feel more confident about using a server and perhaps writing PowerShell, which I'm doing at the moment, on that server. So it's, in terms of career wise, it's a tricky one really, because it depends which area of work you're in. But I'm mainly thinking about somebody who happens to be in a current role and they want to develop their role that they're in at the moment a bit further in their knowledge. So they might be working in first line support and think, oh, actually, you know what, I want to move on to second line support. That's what I want to do. So these courses allow them to have that stepping stone to go further in their knowledge. In terms of overall career and professional career. Say, for instance, if they are currently in IT support and they really want to go and do networks and manage networks, which is actually a really exciting area, I think that I've done a bit of study on that. I think that would enable them to do that. Certainly within the organization they're in, if they would have time to become qualified in, say, Cisco training, they could, as time goes by, perhaps if they see a role in their own company or outside of, they could potentially move into that role as a network administrator, which is actually very lucrative, as you probably know.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Perhaps I could step in with a couple of suggestions here.
Yes.
I've used professional development myself, and it sort of breaks down into three prongs of attack that I perceive as valuable. One of them, for example, we had a specific project at work where we were needing to ramp up on Linux experience as a team. And so the company funded is UDMA, actually. I think you mentioned it earlier on, Ginnis. Their online courses are surprisingly cheap and incredibly professional, in my view. You need to pick carefully. So three of us, we did some Linux courses and got ourselves up to speed. That paid off because we delivered the project on time. And earlier than we otherwise would have done. So the company perceives some value, and we got some kudos because we did our job a lot more quickly. I personally, I could have struggled and brushed my Linux skills up to speed, but for a week of a few hours every day, we ended up with a UDMA certificate that said I'd attended the course. So it doesn't mean too much, but the perceived value from myself and the company was improved timescales, improved productivity, very immediate. And there are courses out there, and Ginnis has listed some excellent examples. So just instant bang for buck, if you like, and just get your job done more effectively. Reach out and do it, and hopefully your employer will support you too. The other thing that I've personally found is personal accreditation levels that you get. Becoming a BCS chartered engineer means that somebody looks at your CV, it's on your CV, and a future employer knows that somebody else has looked at your CV, and yeah, you probably actually have done what you said you've done. And so there's quite a high level of personal accreditation that you can get, particularly from the BCS. Sorry if I'm going on to, I don't want to take too much time.
I think it's really interesting.
So I became a fellow eventually, and it really counted for me. It's quite frankly won me jobs, I think. So that's the BCS certification element. But if you can pick if Microsoft certification or one of the networking certification is important to your job, then yeah, there are some they're worth getting too, and that you're accredited then with a particular technical skill set, and that means that then you can move job, and networking is a very classic example where you can you can get they will only accept you for a job if you've got that kind of accreditation. Microsoft certification is quite high on the list there. The other thing that Ginnis talked about, the professional CPD scheme and that URL that she pointed us to, that is linked to the Sophia skills framework. Now, if you're trying to progress your career at work, there'll be technical skills, there'll be soft skills, management skills that you need in order to tick some boxes for your employer to move you up a grade. Now, if you look at the Sophia SFIA skills framework that the BCS publicise along with their professional framework. You will see that there's a matrices of skills that you can do, like e.g. Managing 3 people and chairing meetings effectively. Now that framework then gives you there are, I think, I'm trying to remember how many levels there are, but there's an initial level where you would join as a graduate, and then as you progress up to senior management, you might be CFA, Sophia level 7. And if you tick some boxes along the matrices on the continuing professional development framework, the skills framework that I'm mentioning, you can then go to your employer and say, well, this says I'm a level 7 person, and it gives you some justification for moving up a grade in whatever grade levels that your employer currently does. So, I mean, this is an international framework that people recognize the different levels in Sophia, and you can then map that to what your employer would expect in terms of skills and abilities to maybe ask for that next step up and be a higher grade. Or at least the framework tells you which boxes you do need to tick in order to move on.
I think that ties into the question we have in the chat box, actually. So if we could read that question just to wrap things up. Yeah.
How do you know which course to take to progress your career? Well, the Sophia framework would help you there. But of course, talk to your employer as well.
Definitely. I mean, in terms of knowing which course to take, each course, each of the platforms we talked about, they do have people at the other end you can ask questions. But it is really, I think it's really good to define yourself. This is something I've discovered, and kind of say to yourself, what path is it I want to go on? What things am I interested in? Do I want to be an analyst? Do I want to be a programmer? Do I want to be a developer? Do I want to go in networking? And I'm not saying that we can't stop and change things, but often employees like to see what path you're taking rather than potentially maybe if you want to change a path, then are you going to stay with that path? And I think consistency is very important.
Absolutely, yes. It's otherwise you can burn a lot of energy going down the wrong path. The most painful point that I find as you progress and become more senior in the career is, I think every company I've worked for expects there's a fork in the road, management or technical, and that's the difficult. I found that very difficult. It is companies often then force you down a senior management route or individual contributor technical skill set, and yes, you do need to choose the path carefully.
Absolutely. Oh, Jeff, thank you so much for that. And Paula, that was an amazing question. Thank you. So without further ado, I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm very excited because we've got Stephen Tweed who's going to talk about BCS, and Jeff kindly mentioned about becoming chartered, and Stephen's going to talk about that. But also we have a lovely lady, Jelly, who's come all the way, well, she's in Nigeria, but she's going to join us from Nigeria, which is really exciting, talking about the Nigerian women in information technology. So what I'll do is I'll ask Stephen to start his talk. And hi Stephen. Hi. And then if you could, Stephen, introduce Stella, that would be lovely. I'll just leave you to flow through on that, and then we'll reach to the Q&A. Do take your time because we're about half an hour ahead of time ish. Right. So you've got, just relax and take your time. That's lovely. Thank you very much, Stephen. So just to say, Stephen's from BCS HQ, and as I say, she's going to be talking about BCS qualifications and becoming chartered. So thank you, Stephen.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'll try and share my screen and let me know if when successful.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Looking good.
Okay. Good. So I'll introduce myself. My name's Stephen Tweed. I'm at head office based in Swindon, and I'm the international director. So I don't have a technical background. I have an education background, but I also have an international background, having been around through various countries, starting in the former Soviet Union in the 1990s, and then moving through into Eastern Europe and Africa. And so I work with BCS to grow their awareness internally, which I think is important. I think BCS in the past has been very UK focused, but I think we have a huge amount of knowledge which we can share. And I think also we should understand the perspectives from an IT perspective of our international partners and colleagues overseas. So I work primarily with certifications, but also with membership and other aspects of BCS. I'm just going to introduce Delhi. We only met last week for the first time, so I'm so pleased that she has been able to come and join us today. After I met her, she was running across to a much more important meeting with Microsoft on Victoria Island, and she was there speaking to another lady who runs their Microsoft office in Nigeria. So Delhi, can you join? Are you still or do you have any connectivity issues, I wonder? And are you able to speak? Let me check my phone.
Hi, Stephen. I can't speak.
I will drive the slides. Can you see the slides, Delhi?
I can see them. So
okay. So over to you, Delhi.
Okay, good evening, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here. A little bit about myself. Yes, Steve has said we only met last week, but before then we had been, there had been a lot of emails going back and forth. So I, like most of the people on this call, I studied law, but for the last 25 years, I've been in the technology industry as a practitioner and professional. So it can happen. Apart from that, from a work perspective, I lived in the UK for about 19 years before I came back to Nigeria. And I worked with, amongst others, NTL and IBM. IBM, I was there for quite a while, so I did different roles, change management, operational, all sorts of roles, and a few certifications along the line. So I came back home 2010. I started a company of my own, and I run this boutique IT organization. We deliver integrations and so on for clients. Hence the relationship with OEMs like Microsoft, Oracle, and so on and so forth. So I wear another hat. I have this foundation called Information Technology Capacity Building. What I do with that is training for young people. I just have the passion and I want to increase the footprints of information technology practice in Nigeria, because there are so many young people around, and with the advent of digital technology and entrepreneurship and all of those things, I think we can do a lot more than we're currently doing. And I have this third hat that I now currently wear, which brings me here today. I became the president of Nigeria Women Information Technology, NIWIT for short, in 2020. So this is my second term that I'm running. I'm allowed a second term. And the NIWIT is, it is an interest group of the larger Nigeria Computer Society. And we are the women-facing aspect of Nigerian Computer Society. We work across women in general. One of our ethos is enriching the use of technology amongst women. So we have different cadres, we have professionals, we have non-professionals, and we do the best that we can to encourage women across industry, academia, and government. Can I have my second slide, please?
Yeah.
Steve?
Yeah.
So I just put a couple of things together. I talked about the focus of NIWIT to advance the use of IT amongst women through networking, collaborations, capacity building programs, and the like. One of the things that is very key for NIWIT is that we have a structure of chapter levels. So in every state of Nigeria, there is a NIWIT chapter. We have 36 states in Nigeria, and that gives us that kind of reach that we need to go into the interlands, if you like. So that's good for us to move around. We want and crave international collaborations. I got an introduction to a couple already. The Black Girls Code, I think that's what it's called. Is that what it's called?
Females, I think.
Black coding females. We have local partners as well. We run a quiz for undergraduate females in universities in Nigeria. What we do, we run a quiz for them, and then obviously give the winners gifts and make it larger every year. And the thinking is that if we go into the university before they come out, then they would have had a little bit of interest in information technology, and hopefully they can stay in the fold. What we also do, there's a National Youth Service Program that every graduate in Nigeria must take part in. So that's one of the collaborations we have with Microsoft at the moment. So we leverage the Microsoft teaching basis, and that 1 year of training that every university graduate gets, we tailor it to women, and we train them through the Microsoft curriculum in 3 stages. So there's a rudimentary, and then a middle level, and a final level. We ran a proof of concept, and it worked very well. So we are going to spread it to our 36 states. That's every program we have at the national level. We try to move it to the states so that we can have more reach. We empower women and with relevant digital skills, and we try to advance the most relevant of the 17 SDG goals that relate to women. So SDG 5 and the poverty one, and so on and so forth. Have I said enough, Steve?
No, it's very interesting even for me, because we didn't really talk around Nigerian women in technology when we met. We were talking about other opportunities, but does anybody have any other questions? Just a bit of background. Earlier this year, or was it last year? God, the time goes so fast with COVID, doesn't it? I never know where I am sometimes. We signed a partnership arrangement with the Jamaican and Digital Technical Alliance. So kind of extending a membership group, joining some dots, putting people together. That's been quite successful, sharing opportunities and expertise between our nations across the Caribbean and the UK. We are hoping to do something, and we're close to finalising something with the Nigerian Computer Society, which includes the opportunity to meet other experts in our field and share their perspectives on IT and how IT can work together to join the dots across all nations, really. And it's particularly interesting to me, and particularly important, I think, because I think BCS has got a lot to say but also a lot to learn. So those opportunities are going to come as we kind of grow and spread across the continent, meeting people who have a voice and a different perspective on IT, which is as valid and as important. Does anybody have any questions for Delhi, President of the Nigerian Women in Technology? Maybe something about Nigeria, or?
I do have a question.
Go on, Paula.
Hi, I'm sorry. I hope I'm not like taking the whole space. If anybody else has a question, please go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, it's good, Paula. We like your questions.
No, I think the reason why I'm quite passionate about this, because before I left Nigeria, I was part of the Nigerian Computer Society.
Oh.
And I think my question would be, what are some of the challenges that you are facing now or have faced in the past, and how you've overcome these challenges on upskilling the Nigerian women, the society? This is taking into consideration like cultural issues and things like that, but what are some of the challenges that you think you've faced in encouraging women in technology in Nigeria?
Hi, Paula. Thank you for the question. Yeah. You have sort of answered some of it for me, because the culture is a big issue, not so much in the South, but in the North, where education in general is seen by some as not necessary for girls. But that perspective is actually changing with time. So one of the things that we have, like I said, the structure we have really helps. So in the last, so it's my 3rd year now running, I have traveled and it is tiring, but we keep going on to talk about this, the necessity. We have programs that we go around to advocate, you know, like advocacy programs just to encourage. Also, the structural, each of the state chapters every month have their meetings, and part of that meeting is a training. It could be Canva, it could be anything, but there must be something to encourage the women who are coming to attend with. We have, during my tenure, been able to, the Microsoft thing is during my tenure as well. And that is something that is potentially going to go really big. I don't know if you were aware, in the key texts that just happened in Dubai a couple of months ago, Microsoft signed an agreement with the Nigerian government, and they promised to train 500,000 or something in, you know, people in I think it's in about 4 years or something like that. And that was one of the reasons why I went to the office there that day in Microsoft to sort of talk to the country lead lady. So we are doing those kind of touch points just for awareness, so that people are prepared, even within the association. So there are, the women in the association themselves need to be prepared. So for example, the conversation I had with Black females in technology, the group of girls that we train from the UFIT, which is the undergraduate female training that we do on a quarterly basis. The conversation I'm having with that lady at the moment is that we will develop a mentoring program, so that we will take those girls and mix them and match them with the right level of mentors, and hopefully we will keep them in that guise. Also, so there's a program that we tagged Robot Girls. So it's Robo Girls. That is for the younger girls. And the association is partnering with NIDA. NIDA is a government Nigerian Information Technology Development Agency. And they're very keen that we do that, and we want to go into secondary schools and start teaching them robotics, even at the just really little, you know, small little drop of ocean, drops in the ocean sort of thing. So right now, one of the issues that we have is the flooding. Believe it or not, is a couple of the states that we wanted to go and start this in are flooded. Kogi State and Anambra, I think it was Anambra. So that's an issue. So it's all of those that kind of country-specific issues. I was speaking to Steve earlier a minute ago, and I said my internet today is being so funny, but hopefully I'll get through my 5 minutes before it packs up. So that's still a problem as well, Paula. But at the end of the day, I think we have moved on in leaps and bounds, and we're on the right path.
Thank you so much, Ms. Daly. Thank you.
Yes. I would. So, are you still a member, or have you stopped being a member
Of the society? I haven't
Yes.
been a member in a while. Yeah, I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because you are now abroad. Okay. Oh
Yeah.
no, we do have members abroad now. So
Okay. All right.
thank you for the question.
Thank you for your time. Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions from anybody? I can't see anything on the screen, so I'll just try and move on. Thanks, Deli. That's great.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure and really interesting to learn more about Nigeria and what's happening there. And we'll catch up during the next couple of weeks, I'm sure.
We will. Yes. May I be excused?
You may. You don't have to ask
Thank
me.
you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Ellie.
you.
I really
Thank you,
appreciate what
Janice.
you're. Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you. So exciting to have
Thank
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. So just quickly moving on. I mean, as I mentioned, is the first, I think the second visit of somebody from BCS to Nigeria. I was there last week. And I think the former president of BCS, Liz Bacon, was there to support a programme that we deliver in Nigeria several years ago. So we're kind of rekindling those kind of partnerships. We've got some very good fellows out in Nigeria, and so we're just trying to grow that relationship and watch this space for more news. I'll skip through some of my slides. So. I mean, I know there's a lot of members of BCS on the call and non-members as well. So I'll kind of quickly run through really what we do in the international space. Obviously, we're the professional body dedicated to IT, and everything I do and everything I'm allowed to do is geared towards making IT good for society, and that's at the heart of everything. And as I said before, I think we have lots of opportunities, and I think lots to offer and lots to learn from a wider audience throughout the world. And so that's my goal, and my goal is sharing that expertise with as many people as I possibly can and joining the dots. I was recently on a flight to Pakistan. I was at Pakistan at the beginning of the year, and the guy sitting next to me was looking over my shoulder for about 2 hours while I was working, and eventually said, "Are you a member of the BCS?" And I said, "Yes, I'm a member, but I'm also I also work for them." And we had a conversation for the next hour. He was working with the Qatar Ambulance Service in a digital transformation project. He'd been there for 5 years. He was based in London, but hadn't lived there for a while. And we got talking, and lo and behold, he has lots of expertise that he's willing to share with the partners that we had in Pakistan and elsewhere. So it's amazing the network of BCS professionals you come across in all walks of life, doing all sorts of things. More recently, I was on the internal chat, and I asked if anybody had any contacts with Iraq, because I've been approached by somebody, and we have somebody who's a member working in Erbil. So again, it's an amazing group of people we have in this organization, and hopefully internationally we will be able to join a few dots and bring people together. My role is in part selling professional certifications, which I'll come on to, and we do that. Let me just move on a slide. We do that in a number of specific areas. BCS doesn't sit in a room and decide which professional certifications it wants to do. We work with industry. So industry informs us of the fears they have for the future, the lack of skills that they may have, and risks that they believe are approaching. And BCS works with them and with subject matter experts and members to create a syllabus, which then people would review in other businesses. And then we create an exam which we certify and which we provide on our systems, on our platforms to others to take, and we provide courseware as well. So these are things that we do in the 5 core subject areas: cyber, data, AI, business analysis, and software testing. We don't deliver those courses ourselves. We provide the infrastructure and the framework in which the exam sits, and we certify that, and then we accredit third-party training providers who then deliver those certifications to individuals or businesses increasingly around the world, which is where I'm particularly looking. We do about 70,000 a year on average, so it's quite significant, and of course we're looking to grow internationally too. Through those different certifications, they're leveled in some instances. On the left-hand side, you will see the kind of business analysis, which is the biggest portfolio that we have in terms of what we deliver. And that begins with a foundation level, of which there are actually 4 different levels. This slide must be quite old. We have an IS projects management level now in the foundation. And then you work through to practitioner and onto the international diploma, which is kind of it's not the highest level within business analysis, but it's one that people aspire to, and that's actually an oral exam with other business analysts. Some certifications we provide are not leveled. User experience is just a foundation level. AI is probably our newest portfolio, and that covers a multitude of different awards, which are new for us. They're single-day courses, but it can lead to a foundation and a diploma at the highest level. And then, of course, software testing, which is also one of our biggest exams. We mentioned Sophia before. The Sophia Foundation was I think it was started by BCS in around 2000, and then it's kind of now its own individual foundation. And I think they're on the 8th iteration of the framework, which is adapting and changing all the time, as you can imagine. And so all our certifications are leveled to Sophia. If you are a member and you have access to My BCS, you will see that you have the ability to browse Sophia and look at the different levels, look at the different criteria, and map your own career path through that. I was talking to some Nigerians. It's called Access Bank, who are currently having a look at the portfolio, the platform as it sits now, and another service that we provide through something called Role Model Plus, which allows them to map the skills and the gaps within their staff of where they have missing skills, and be able to provide a kind of a continued professional development for their staff, but also identify where they probably need to bring new people in, or probably need to add new skills to their current cohort. So everything is leveled by BCS to the Sophia framework, which we talked about earlier. There are lots of resources for people taking professional certification. Even as non-members, you can download specimen papers or the syllabus. They're all available. BCS is extremely open organization. As I said, we are there to benefit society, improve skills, professionalism, and behaviors in the IT world, and we do that by being open with everybody about what we do, and providing as much content as we can. So even for our professional certifications, which we do sell, but the courseware and the syllabi are all available. We, of course, have IT Now, which is our journal, which members have access to, and there are a number of books, some of them relating to the courses, some of them relating to particular roles in IT, which are all available for members and non-members to buy. But it's a neat package of different opportunities within membership to access professional certifications, or you don't have to be a member to access them. But if you pass a professional certification at BCS, you do become a member for a year. And so that gives you access to many of the resources that you can use to develop your career and plan your career going forward. Wrong way. This is just a view of my BCS. This is what you get access to when you become a member. We talked about planning your development, which was mentioned earlier. I think what I particularly like at the moment is BCS Community, where you have access to members and you can raise questions. It's where I found my Iraqi partner, which was fantastic. There's a jobs board for students. There is an e-learning hub with over 1,000 different e-learning items, videos, small presentations, e-learning courses, all of which is available to members. Special interest groups too, which you can join, and community groups, and you have access to our jobs board. So a lot of it is, I would say, geared towards students in IT and building through their career, supporting them through their career. We've recently gone through a change of membership levels, which some members are not upset about, but there has been a little bit of social media activity around the changes. It's been felt that BCS needs to, rather than kind of be a gatekeeper to the standards and the levels that we and the professionalism that we all promote, that we ought to be more open to students and bring them through into BCS membership a lot sooner, and to allow them to follow a path that within BCS, within membership, that we can help and support them. There's a great mentoring network as well within that to help students. And so it all adds to, I think, personally, one of the best benefit packages that are available. And I think for students, it's probably somewhere in the region of £30 for 4 years membership. So it's completely accessible and available to everybody. When you do a professional certification, you can self-study if you want, but we also advise people to individuals in their career to use an accredited training provider, of which there are about probably around 50 or 60 in the UK. Internationally, I only have around about 20 active training providers that we work with, and they are across Nigeria, Egypt, Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, several we have in India, South Africa now, Hong Kong, and we're looking at building in China. So we're covering the world. We're growing. We delivered Bahrain International Banking and Finance are a partner of ours, and they delivered certifications in Saudi last week, and we also have a partner in Oman that also delivers some of our certifications. So it's growing. We're by no means big internationally, but I think the opportunities are there. Obviously, certifications are you have to do an exam at the end of the course. That is where BCS generates its revenue. So it's not through the actual course itself. That's third parties to deliver. And you can take the exam with your training provider in our eProfessional on our eProfessional platform. We have remote proctored opportunities as well, or you can use Pearson VUE to sit the exam. And fundamentally, they are 1 to 3 day long courses that you will sit with an exam at the end. The exam can be between 60 and 120 minutes with a variety of scenario-based multiple choice questions to become certified. And it reflects part of your continued professional development. I am currently, after 30 years of business or more, probably, doing business analysis foundation course because I felt there was a lot of things in the course I was selling that I didn't know myself, and I thought it was always best, even at my age, to improve myself and understand new techniques and new opportunities. And so that is something I'm doing, and I'm not doing that online. I'm doing that through an app which is provided by one of our accredited training providers, which might interest some people. There is a huge amount of opportunity for learning currently online, which is absolutely fantastic. Okay. Webinars we all know about. We're on one today, but there are literally hundreds of them around, and I think they're all fantastic. I've been on one not so long ago with the AI group, specialist interest group, with some which I always find fantastic, and it's evolving at such a pace that it's difficult to keep up sometimes. But there's lots of ways to learn through BCS, whether it's the mentoring program, whether it's professional certifications, or whether it's just listening in or learning to some of the webinars and some of the activities that are going on. Being a member is all part of sharing your experience, I think, and inviting people in to learn more, connecting those dots with organisations supporting the pillars that BCS policy are promoting, such as green IT and women in technology, the digital divide, inclusivity and diversity are all very positive things to come out of BS. And I think it's an ideal partner and an ideal organization to be at the forefront of technology as it grows, and it needs to grow. It needs to grow in many of the countries where we operate, because you're never going to get the manufacturing jobs away from Asia at the moment. So when you have, I think I saw reported the last couple of days, Nigeria has 216 million people, many of them young, many of them looking for a good education and good opportunities, many of them extremely bright, and just lacking those opportunities. So IT has a big part to play in all sorts of different industries, the gig economy, agriculture, aquaculture, bits of part manufacturing, retail. It's so important now to everybody's life moving forward that being part of BCS and delivering the certifications that we can, I think is vital. That was kind of the first bit on the professional certification side of things. Does anybody kind of have any questions about those before I move on? They're typically 1 to 3 day long courses. So they are short courses that anybody can dip in and out of, but they are incredibly interesting, which I find by doing the BA myself. Any questions?
I just wanted to, sorry, because Jeff has kindly offered to do the questions. Jeff, can you see that question that somebody's posted, or do you want me to read it out?
I think that's just
I don't know if Jeff is there. So I'll ask you. So somebody said they've contacted BCS recently asking for past papers for the foundation certificate in business analysis,
okay.
but was told that they only have 20 out of the 40 questions for the 2020 specimen paper. Is there any reason why the past exam questions are not available?
There will be a reason why they're not available. I think we have 2 sets of papers. We have a specimen paper and we have a sample paper. So they should be available. But I think what we've found in the recent past is that people are taking all of our past papers and our sample papers and making them available online for everybody. And I think we're kind of protecting our own IP a little bit. So I think that might be a reason. But if somebody wants to drop me a note at the end of the session today, I can speak to product who control access to the various sample and past papers, just to find out why they're restricting that. I'm not too sure whether we gave out a previous sample papers to business analysis particularly. It was probably only one anyway, but I'll double check. My memory fails me at this moment in time.
Thank you, Stephen. That's really kind. I'll just check if they've got any other things they want to ask. Thank you for that. That's great.
Sorry, Janice, I was having trouble unmuting myself.
Oh no, thank you, Jeff.
Okay, we do have a question.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just reading the question.
Okay.
Okay, we've got a question. I'll read it out. I sent the admin staff to contact their manager to ask if there was more, and they got back to me saying there wasn't. So I'm guessing that's a
Well, that's to
follow
do with
on
the
to the previous. Yeah.
sample paper. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
I'll find out.
So much, Stephen. Yeah, feel free to carry on.
Okay. We'll take a look at chartered IT professional. Before I start, it's not my area of expertise, and there's probably some chartered professionals on the call today who probably or possibly know more than myself. I do know that it is kind of the pinnacle. It's seen as the very top of the IT profession, certainly from a BCS perspective. And so we run a number of Nick Phillips is the product manager for Chartered. He's the guy who looks after the standard and promotes it. And he runs a number of webinars which are available to attend through the BCS workshops. If you look through the calendar of activities, you'll see Nick Phillips who runs a regular session for those people who are interested in becoming chartered IT professionals. I was trying to get Nick involved tonight, but he's been rather busy, and so let me just see where I can take this discussion. Okay, so what is an IT professional? As I said, you can read the slides. They're there in front of you, and I'll make the slides available to everybody at the end. But from an internal perspective and looking out at chartered IT professionals, they do tend to be at the very pinnacle of their profession. It's a group of professionals who sit at the kind of CIO level, from what I've seen and the people who I have met. That doesn't mean to say they're exclusively at the top, but generally they are. They have to have a great deal of experience and be working in a complex role, as it says. It's not something that you kind of you achieve it and then you stop. The idea is that you achieve it and then you continue to progress. So keeping a record of your knowledge and your continued professional development, even at the level of CITP, is recommended by BCS. And so it's something that reflects your standing within BCS, but also is recognized internationally, which I was asked that question in China recently, that it reflects your standing globally within your level of the profession, and is a highly recognized, and I would say sought after post-nominal and badge of professionalism, really. We talk about T-shaped roles quite a lot these days. So the horizontal breadth of knowledge. So you're delivering IT projects in a team. Obviously, there's I think that was mentioned earlier in the talk, and that within that team you've got to have that ability to be able to communicate, be able to speak the same language, understand, follow orders, make decisions, strategize, and that depends whether you're at studying or professional in user experience or business analysis or whatever your expertise is. You have that depth of knowledge too, and I think it's very much part of the chartered IT professional that you can kind of demonstrate this breadth of knowledge and this variety of knowledge across the IT profession, as well as having your own very deep understanding of the technical ability that is needed to deliver on many of the projects that are run. I was reading somewhere that 85% of IT projects fail in that they don't meet their budget, or they are over time. I am my grandfathers and my uncles were both in the post office, and I'm constantly reading upon on the horizon story, and the failure of the IT profession in that regard is quite a significant one. It just shows you the incredible problems that can exist when things don't go right. And I think chartered IT professionals there are kind of at the very pinnacle and are there in a way to maintain the standards of our profession and keep us on our toes, I think. So how do you apply? There's an application that BCS is available from the website. You'll need a supporter, somebody to support you within the role and where you're working, so who can support the activities that you do and your level, which is important. It's a written validation. Peer reviewed, so you have a telephone discussion, maybe requested, or sorry, you can hear my dog whining in the background, or written information from an initial peer and reviewed by assessors. It's a formal process, obviously, which involves a 10-minute interview. You will be, when you get through to the final stages, you'll be interviewed by 2 assessors, one who will be a subject matter expert within the area of your current role, and the other one will be another CITP professional. So it's a very elite group. I've got some stats which I will show at the end. But as I said, it's something to aspire to, and at the pinnacle of the profession at BCS. All of the things that you can imagine being the Chartered Institute is what we look for. Autonomy, influence, complexity, and your business knowledge, because IT sits within the business environment. And so delivering on projects inevitably means coming in touch with customers or internal stakeholders, and being able to justify investment and outcomes is very important. So you've got to have that business knowledge and awareness, as well as the deep technical skills that you possess. Breadth of knowledge, of course, and this is how you will be assessed. Legal and social and ethical factors are always very important at the heart of BCS. As you can imagine, it's something that is very, being the kind of I don't want to say police force, but being the kind of people who set those standards and set that level of professionalism and want people to aspire to it is very important, and that involves an awful lot of ethical factors, which we talk about constantly here at BCS. So that's what the assessors will be looking for. And this is the final interview. 2 assessors hold online with video conferencing software. It lasts an hour. There'll be a presentation, and you'll receive a pack, and you can opt to go onto a public register, which some people choose to do or not, just to identify yourselves, or industry can see you're a chartered IT professional. It may help in achieving your career goals. And that's it. And then I just thought, because we were doing a Women in Tech thing, I thought I'd have a look at the chartered IT professionals within BCS, and I could see the demographic really, and see, and this is probably my most interesting slide, by the way, because it interested me quite a lot. So here you can see, so you can be a professional member, which is MBCS, or you can be a fellow, and you can, and in either you can be a CITP, a chartered IT professional. So you can see the breakdown of numbers there. The interesting one, obviously, in this regard is that the number of CITs, male CITs, is somewhere in the region of 9,000. But for female, if you discount the unknowns, even if you include them, it's a lot less. But at the moment, identified as just 6% of the the overall population of chartered IT professionals. And then something which also interests me is the kind of age brackets. And as you can see, BCS is kind of progressing in terms of the older members and lacking in the number of new members, which is why we're kind of changing our membership grades to invite more people in at the beginning of their career to help them and support them progress. And also opening up the chartered IT professional standard. They call them professional registrations. They used to be called standards now, and just to encourage more people, particularly more people who are professional members, to move into the chartered status, because we think it's important. So that was one of the most interesting slides that I had, and in terms of international chartered professionals, I don't have those numbers. It's something I'm particularly interested in. I know that there are several in Nigeria who I speak to. One is runs Jos University computer science degree program. One is at Access Bank, Richard Amafonye, who I was with last week for a couple of meetings. And I think one of the ministers for IT and communication is also a chartered IT professional. So there's a number around. I bump into them, as I said, on planes as well, which is interesting. And so it's interesting to find them when you do, and they're very approachable from my experience. And that's the end of my presentation, which has probably not been long enough, but I hope, Eunice, it's filled in some gaps about BCS.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Stephen. I just wanted to say it's amazing, that pie chart showing how many women are, in IT and so on. It's quite shocking, actually, to think that there isn't enough women in IT. And I really hope this is probably, I know there's lots of IT tech groups for women. I hope that there is some encouragement, and this event does encourage women to stay in IT, progress in IT, encourage other women to go in IT as well. So I hope that happens. So do we have any questions, Jeff, at all? Thank you, Stephen. It's been amazing.
Yeah, yes, we do actually. An anonymous attendee, so we're not sure who it is. I am a practicing social worker and I do not have a background in IT. There is a very high demand for applicants to have a minimum of 1 or 2 years practical experience for example, junior business analyst role. I understand that certifications are good, but please, what advice do you have to help my transition into this sector as a minority female, given the requirements in the industry?
It's a really good question, actually.
Very deep.
Yes, very.
I'm trying to work out how much experience this person has in terms of work experience, but yes.
Just from my perspective on professional certifications from a level, I often find that the professional certifications that I work with can sit well in a technical role as well as a non-technical role, actually, in terms of transitioning into digital. I think they, in many instances, they sit very well. And I've been speaking to the head of IT within BCS, Dale, and a number of business analysts within the business, and their perspective on the BCS professional certifications also sits in that kind of space, that they're equally as not open. You do need a degree of technology in some of them, but they're very much part of the digital transformation world, about businesses and industry moving into this digital world or moving through it. And supporting people. So what I would say is, on the professional certifications side, don't be put off that they're by the Chartered Institute for IT. They are accessible and very interesting. So that would help. I would also say, being a member of BCS and going on the discussion forum and raising your very interesting questions about how to move into the industry, coming from a social worker background. I think that too is something that people can help with, and members can help. That's why we're here. Ultimately, that's what I find I want more of. I want more of these questions, because I do want people within BCS to go away and think of them and think, well, how might we help these people who are transitioning into a new industry from a background that's non-IT, and how they can benefit BCS, and their perspectives are as valid in many instances.
Indeed, yes. So just to reinforce what Stephen says, we are very approachable, and you could actually just simply find your local. We have local groups that put on events. You can just turn up as a member or not a member. There are lectures or social events around the country. Just find the local group and turn up one evening to one of these events just to chat.
Jeff, have you seen Ian's reply?
Yeah, what does Ian say?
He said, I would encourage members in the early stages of their career to consider a registered IT tech, RIT tech in brackets, as an initial step towards a rigor of record keeping needed to approaching the chartership.
So keeping records of what you're doing for.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
In terms of the question regarding, entering a career and not having kind of experience, is a hard one, really, I think. But I would definitely consider volunteering and having a go to see if any organisations are open to that, or even asking employers if they're willing for you to shadow somebody within their organisation to find out more about the roles. But more so, there is a lot of apprenticeship roles which might suit you potentially to enter which means that you are training and studying at the same time. I do feel that there should be more things like apprenticeships whereby people study and work at the same time. I think that's really worthwhile, and I don't think there is enough of that at the moment, potentially because of investment, I would say. So I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah.
I think Jeff does another question.
Just to add to that, the government does provide funding for lifelong learning, and that does, they're loans, but they do. I know we do a qualification called HEQ, which is it's a modular program similar to the one that was discussed earlier, but covers a much broader base of IT. It's the oldest qualification actually in BCS, coming from IMIS, I think. And because it's modular and because it's flexible, we sit the exam twice a year. There's a number of UK colleges now that have adopted it. It sits well internationally because of the nature of it. It's very flexible, but it's very accessible now in the UK. And I think I didn't hear the budget this afternoon, so if anybody's known that there's been any cuts, but there is that opportunity to take advantage of the government's lifelong learning loans. I think they are. Correct me, as I say, I'm not focused on the UK. I'm international, so I think they are available for people for transition their career. So I would take a look at that particularly, and then find a course that is flexible. And I think there's two been mentioned today that can lead you into that change of career.
Can I just also add, I think I'm buttressing Genius's point as to looking for volunteer opportunities. Another place would be to go to like innovation centers for startups as well, to sort of put to practice the things that you're learning on your own. So before you go ahead to apply for like chartership or in a case where you're looking for experience or practical experience, startups are a good a place to go to as well, and innovation centers, really. So I think that's a good place.
I do agree. Yes. This is a tricky one because it is possible, when you apply for roles, to potentially, if you don't get accepted in the role, some companies do enable a place where you can ask as to what qualifications or what experience would be helpful to obtain. I can see that you work very full time. You haven't got time to do shadowing. So it would be, I would say it would be really worthwhile if you are able to, as Jeff said, to come to one of our meetings and join. And you can just join in the meetings using Eventbrite, or you could come to our meetings, which, as Jeff said, afterwards we do socialise. So we could potentially put our heads together and make sure we help you the best we can for you to move forward. I don't know if anything else you'd like to say, Jeff, about that.
No, I don't think so. I think we've got some more open questions, but I've just typed an answer to the anonymous attendee who, how do they find the events? The BCS runs an event calendar, so I've sent the URL there.
Perfect.
Answering
Thank
the
you,
question.
Yeah.
And for anybody else who's interested, if you go to the bcs.org website, there's an events calendar.
That's lovely.
Okay, so we've got some questions coming in now. Okay, oh no, there is primarily responses to what we've already said.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's about that shadowing opportunity as well, and I understand that people are concerned that when you do a shadow, when you shadow someone for a role, it's unpaid, and that you might feel like you're losing out on money. But I think in terms of like career progression, sometimes you need to double down to climb up, if that makes sense. Just
yeah, definitely.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah, you need to just like gain the experience so that when you want to get a particular role or apply for chartership at BCS, you already have the experience at hand. But I understand that, yes, it might not be realistic if you're not able to get paid for certain roles, but it's some price that you have to pay. And that's why you have to check different options. So if it's like charity organizations or like other voluntary options or innovation centers, startups, opportunities where you can actually do flexible work while you're maybe doing your other social work as well. So you can still be earning money, but you are actually gaining practical experience as well within the IT sector.
Yeah,
Thank you
you're
so
not
much.
the only one either, Anonymous. There are in the membership forum. There's a lorry driver there who's just started as a business analyst, but he was having difficulty because he is, he's transitioning from a lorry driver into business and technology, and he was asking lots of questions about how can he find a job, what can he do, and members are there to help and support. And for me, that's key to what we do as members.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you. That's really, really helpful. I don't know if there's any more questions.
Janice, could I just make a comment at this point?
Yes, of course.
I mean, I think in the context of the subject of this evening's meeting, the small number of women who have achieved CITP has got to be a major concern. I mean, it's substantially less than the proportion of women working in IT in the UK, which I think is normally measured at around 20%. So to find that only 6% of CITPs are describing themselves as female, it has got to be a question that needs to be looked into. I was just wondering whether Stephen knows whether there is any work going on there to look at the reasons why that might be happening. And I think also I would reassure everybody on the meeting that the process itself is absolutely not biased one way or the other. And the assessors that I know, both for the fellowship and for the chartered status, are not going to be displaying bias in the process of evaluating and assessing candidates coming forward. I wonder whether there is an issue here in the way in which people are encouraged to come forward, and the sort of leap that people will take to say, I'm ready for it, because I think there is some evidence in other areas that women are sometimes less ready to make that leap if they don't think they're quite there than some men are. And maybe that's behind it, and maybe the age profile is also partly behind it, because the recent initiatives in getting more women into IT won't have gone through into the sorts of ages of people that are getting through into chartered and fellowship status. But I've never seen that number before, and it deeply worries me. I'd also
indeed
know what the number is in fellowships as well, which
it's shockingly low.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, I was shocked when I saw. I only pulled it off this afternoon because I thought it was an interesting stat for this particular meeting. But I'll speak to Holly. Holly's the head of membership and standards, so she will be. I'm sure she's on top of this figure. I wouldn't be surprised if they've got planned a lot of activities around supporting women into CITP. So I'll come back and I'll inform Janice of what's been happening.
Yeah,
and if nothing's happening, we'll get something happening.
Well, I think one thing that can happen is mentoring programs, and that's certainly what's been kicked off in terms of people considering applying for fellowship. There are now mentoring programs to help them through the new process for that. And I think maybe that could be an answer here, mentoring of potential female candidates. It's not saying they're going to get there, but helping them to think about it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm certainly going to have a go soon as I get a moment to get it done. I've started writing it all up, so yeah. So thank you, Stephen. You're amazing. All the things you've said, so interesting, so inspiring.
Anytime.
And I really, really appreciate also that you managed to get Delhi as well. It's just like, it's amazing just to talk to someone in Nigeria from UK. Yeah. She's just so lovely.
Well, there's the Caribbean president is amazing, Stacey Hines. She's a tour de force. She is. So so there's others, and I come across some fantastic women in technology around the world, in Pakistan particularly, and women doing a lot to support women in IT. Because it's a role that they can do within. It sounds terrible when I say kind of confines of their home. It sounds terrible. I don't mean it that way, but what I mean is that there's very few jobs that women can do in some instances, which allows them to be at home as well. And I think IT does allow that, even though I wouldn't recommend it all the time. But it is.
Thank you. And Shweta's going to be talking to us about what she does, and I think Shweta, you work from home, don't you? So that's amazing. Thank you so much, Stephen, and thank you for your talk. And I just want to introduce you to an ex-colleague of mine. She's amazing. Her name is Shweta, and she does something which is very, very important, which is computer auditing. I don't think we can run our computers without this. So I just wanted to introduce you to her, and I want to say, Shweta, thank you. And would you like to start your talk? Thank you. Shweta, you're just on mute at the moment. If you don't mind unmuting, that'd be great. Thank you very much. That's great.
Right. Can everybody see my screen? How do I get this?
Yes, we can. You can indeed. Thank you, Shweta. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. So this is more about computer auditing. So basically, I come from a maths background. So I graduated with in the mathematics field, but obviously with no technical knowledge. So when I started, it was in a different world. I have got like around 20 years experience. So like when I started working in 2001, mathematics was not considered a field to get into a career. It was more like, okay, you like mathematics, so you do it. And obviously I was not considered a good candidate for any IT kind of roles at that point of time, which was a little tough, especially because I have lived and studied in India. So obviously, women roles in IT were quite sparse. They still are, but thankfully now, because of technology, a lot of people are talking about it, and females are entering into this field. So I will just kind of just start as to what the computer auditing is all about, and especially from a non-technical background, and then how women can enter into this field with certain knowledge of IT, which I will just kind of just quickly just touch base upon it. So so this is the topics that I will cover: the history of computer audit, IT audit as it's commonly called, and what it is all about, and the kind of audits that are part of every organization, and what qualities do we need. I will not say qualification, but I always say that what qualities an auditor needs for this. So now, history of computer auditing. In this, the concept of auditing was way back in mid-1960s. Now, obviously, at that time, technology was not kind of aware, like it was not global. It was more in various sectors or in various countries. I saw the major IT-driven roles in early 2000s. That's when I started saying, okay, yes, because computers came into the picture, IT came into, mobile phones were part of it. When I was studying in school, computer was an optional subject for me. So we can take it and we might not take it, because nobody knew as to how we would progress, further with computers, because there was very limited awareness about it. So obviously it came, and now with so many industries such as telecommunications, banking, pharmaceuticals, now all these companies are heavily dependent on technology. Every system, every work that we do, it is entered into a system. All our information is sitting into a system. And that's why, like Janu said, computer auditing is now becoming very important as a service in a IT-driven world right now. And so my experience is basically in the pharmaceutical company. So I have worked with IT engineers and in quality roles in the pharmaceutical companies. So obviously, yeah. So and it's a very highly regulated service. So now, obviously, as in the past 10 years, you would have noticed that the technology is changing every few months. There are new technology coming, because so much has been spoken about data. All of our data, patients' data, or any kind of data, like even if you go to a bank, every data is being entered into a system. So a lot of controls have to be put in place around those computer systems. We have a lot of data which we don't realize, but then we are giving it out. Even our, say, even if you go to open an account in a bank, you are giving your birth date, you're giving your passport as an evidence. Now, all that data is like going in a system. Now, imagine when those systems, if they are left unattended, somebody has a lot of access to that. That's where computer auditing comes into place, as to talking about which regulations, which industry has to adhere to, and then how they should be controlled. Now, what is a computer audit? Now, this is what I put on this slide. It is a very high-level thing. That it is just examination of the management of controls, like I've been talking about the IT infrastructure that every industry has right now, and the business applications that you're using. So even, for example, if like everybody has a Hotmail or a Gmail account, now we use it without even having any second guess about its security. But those companies who are providing us that service, they have to ensure that our data, any emails that I'm exchanging, can only be read by the sender and the recipient, not by anybody else. So yeah, so that's what, so when we go and audit a computer, we are just not auditing a computer in isolation. We have to audit it in terms of what processes it is catering to, what infrastructure, where the data is flowing, what all other systems are supporting that, which are the processes it is supporting that. And yes, and is it working for what it is intended for? Now, obviously, in like various industry, it is also known as information systems audit or IT audits. Now, these are the, I will not go into too much of details, but like these are the types of audits that now with advance in technology are becoming quite prominent. And I have seen in my 16 years of experience in pure audits that that computer auditors are required every day in every industry. So now we have to, so now the top 3 would require a little bit of more technical skills, understanding of the new technology which is coming in. So obviously, I will not kind of say that, oh, you can be a non-technical person and then you can conduct these audits. But then, yes, they are now quite advanced and quite prominent in our day-to-day work, which I do. Technological innovation process audits, in which basically the companies who are coming up with new systems, new apps, they have to kind of, like go out and then do a comparison with the other markets as to how they can sell that services, whether their systems or the infrastructure that they are proposing can be used. Innovative comparison audit, that's where the companies who are having similar services, and they're saying, okay, we have the service out there, which are our competitors, and then technological position audit, which is like for any company where they are going ahead and then they're talking about saying, okay, this is the this is the service that we are giving to our clients, and just to ensure that we are managing it correctly. And this, I think, so if you are working in any company, you would have heard these kind of audits, or because these all are part of their internal audits, systems and applications, any system that we are using, they all are part of some internal controls. System development, any system that we are developing, they have to adhere to certain industry practices. So that's what it is. So that we have to ensure. Now, client server, telecommunications, intranets, this is the IT infrastructure that I'm talking about, and security audits. Now, you will notice that these kind of audits are always coming under IT governance, IT management. So any industry will have an IT department, and even if the team is working on these, there will be some external or independent person who will come and audit them for their controls and their processes. Now, this is the key slide that I will just kind of say that, okay, how when we talk about how a non-technical person kind of go and audit these, that person has to, yes, need to have a basic computer understanding as to what a computer does, what it is all about. And but I think so it is very common now. It is becoming general knowledge, because we are using computers, mobile every day now. So now, to start as a quality auditor or a computer auditor, you need to have an understanding of the organizational processes, the business needs, and the regulatory expectations, because every industry, every company needs to adhere to some regulation. So as a computer auditor, you need to understand that, which is very easily available online, because even if I have to go and look for any regulation which any particular pharmaceutical company has to adhere to, they are available by the regulatory bodies online for us. So yes, so this is the key thing, and most of the companies also kind of train you on these, so that everybody who is working for that organization, they have an understanding as to what all processes they have to kind of have to follow and have to adhere to. Soft skills, as a computer auditor, you need to have excellent communication in terms to be able to kind of ask the right questions from all the unrelated data that is given to you, and to be able to kind of turn around and give them a constructive feedback as to what needs to be done in order to kind of have the regulatory expectations met. When I go and audit, most of the systems are very different. They have different intended use. They have different market to cater to. So understanding of that is required. But in order to communicate that to the process owners, people who are actually going to use the system or are going to develop the system, they need to understand as to why we are asking certain controls to be implemented or asking certain questions during the quality audit. Yeah, so that's what we need. Technical skills, like I said to you, that we need to have a basic computer understanding, and then during the earlier sessions, all the certifications that have been proposed, they will only kind of encourage you to kind of learn more about what new technology trends are available, which all certifications are available right now. There are free courses available on YouTube and on Udemy, etc., just to have a basic understanding of like different technical expertise, which is out there right now. Certifications, apart from the certifications that is already there, in order to, at a certain period in time, you need to have certain certifications in order to boost your career in as a computer auditor, such as CISA, which is a Computer Information Security Auditor. That kind of certifications are needed. So those are the key qualities that will kind of get you into the computer auditing role. And just to end my session with a fun line that somebody told me once, is that a auditor, a person who justifies having trust issues with professional skepticism.
That's very good.
Because we always ask questions, Janusis. I've seen that. So
yes, yeah, definitely. And Shweta and myself actually work together, so I'm missing her a lot. But yeah, it's so interesting. Thank you so much, Shweta. It's such an interesting topic, because we cannot live without this, and now it's becoming more and more important. It was something Stephen was talking about, the post office, where there was an error in the program.
Yes,
I just really absolutely felt for those people who didn't have the correct program. They had errors in the program, and they were at the end point of that issue. And it's such a shame that kind of thing happens, and thank goodness there is something like computer auditing, because we really do need people who can help us make sure computers are working as they should, they're producing the right information, and they don't have errors in them, and they're checked. And certainly in pharmaceuticals, because we want whatever medicines we take are good, and whatever comes out in terms of formulas and things, they're correct. So I just want to say thank you so much. Let me get myself on camera. Thank you so much, Shweta. I really appreciate it, and I just wondered if anyone's got any questions for Shweta. Thank you. I think Stephen is asking, can it be done remotely? Jeff, sorry, I've taken that away.
Yes. So,
that's fine.
Yes. So most of the audits that I do, they are conducted remotely, unless there is a particular client specification where clients ask us to kind of like go and see the infrastructure. So for example, if I'm auditing a data center, I need to be at that data center to check, to kind of see how the physical controls, physical security is there. But apart from that, I will say 85 to 90% of the audits that I do, which is like around 4 to 5 audits a month, they all are just remote. I can do it. And thankful, so let me also put it like that before COVID, it was not easy to convince, because people didn't know how to kind of do it. But yes, during COVID, and with the regulations coming in place, which said remote audit, what all can be shared online and on screen, that made it easier. So now 90% of the audits are completely remote.
Thank you for that. And I think, you know, there's a person on the chat saying about whether they can enter an industry. I think that starting point that you described of what you know, the skills you need and the qualifications you need, it really is very helpful, because it means that there is opportunities for people to enter the industry.
Yes, it is. And like, I would just say that as a female, I've seen that it is very difficult to go and ask for opportunity in a field from which you're not coming from. So like, I was coming from a mathematics. So at that time, my boss at that time, he kind of encouraged me because I was showing interest. And he said, okay, so if you will never ask, you will never get it.
Right.
That was the thing that he said, that yes, go and ask whether you need any mentorship, any skill enhancement, any upgrade in your, you know, like education or certification. And yes, and I was like, thankfully, I have been guided all the way so far.
Oh, that's fantastic. Lovely, thank you. Is there another question, Jeff, there?
Yeah, there's another one on chat. Is it or should it be a legal requirement? That's from Stephen.
So computer auditing is a legal requirement for any industry which is heavily regulated. So such as pharmaceuticals, such as banking, telecommunications, so anywhere where you can exchange data, any information which is considered very personal to me, that has to be audited. Yes, it is a legal requirement now. So, for example, very basic, when you exchange messages on WhatsApp, you will see that there is a message which comes up that all your text, all your messages are being encrypted, so that it's only you and the recipient can see it. So that is coming out of a regulation where they have to inform us that all our information has to be encrypted. So yeah.
And there's so much, isn't there, where, you know, when you sign up for a site, whether it be for shopping or whether it'll be to sign up to get training, there's all the GDPR associated with it, and they have to ask you questions about whether you want to share the information, whether you want to receive information. There's a lot there, isn't there, Shweta?
Yes. So GDPR was enforced in 2008, but it already existed even before that. If you remember, whenever we started using any, like if we go on any site, it says, do you allow all cookies? And we very robotically, we just accept, agree, and we move on and then start needing the news. But then we are allowing them to pass our information to a third party. But we are doing it without knowing it. But then those sites or those companies have some regulations in place where they have put that question for us to answer so that they can get away from that legality. Because I would have checked, yes, allow to give that information. So yes.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Jeff, do we have any more questions at all?
I'm not seeing anything at the moment.
That's great. Okay, brilliant. Well, I don't know if anyone else has got questions, do let us know. I really want to just really thank all our participants tonight, some of which who've gone, Stephen, Shretters, who's here, and Paula, thank you so much for your contribution as well, and Jeff, thank you for your support. So I really hope that this might be one of many events nationally for people in IT, and hopefully it might inspire people to enter the IT industry. So again, thank you so much, participants, for your time, and Shweta and Stephen, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I know it's late at night, and I felt really bad, Shweta, you being, you know, at the end of the panelists.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
I enjoyed all
very important
sessions,
to have you here, because you're a representative of women in IT, and so that's really fantastic. I'm hoping to organise a networking event as a follow-up to this event. So if you are interested in that, do put your name on the chat, and we can contact you about that. And that will be it can be a very small group, even 5 people, what have you, so that we can all get together and perhaps talk about our positions and what we do as women in IT. So yeah, do let me know if you're interested in that. So I think there's another question, is there? Jeff?
Yes, for indicating interest. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Paula. Thank you. So thank you so much, everyone. Unless there is any more questions at all, I can start to think about ending this meeting.